So, if you think about how courts work, in the judge world, everybody comes to us. I don't travel for work outside of the 3 different courthouses we have. Hearings, trials, everything, people come here every day. There's hundreds of people that come into this building for custody matters, for criminal matters, for money judgments, for landlord-tenant matters. What do you do when in one day, that all ends? And it's become one of those things where I love the idea of forced innovation, but one of the people that I talk to a lot says, hey, this is kind of like trying to build the airplane as we're flying it. So I hope today, when Brooke asked me to do this, I thought I would share with you a little bit about how the courts have sort of evolved in the process of dealing with this pandemic and really changing the model of how we deliver access to justice to people. It's been really challenging, and it's been very interesting. But I think one of the things that I've learned so far about this is that collectively, we've all really been focused on solutions and not mired down in the problems and the obstacles, because the obstacles have come at us almost daily. And the interesting thing, I think, for everybody in your respective organizations, and I know so many of you, is that the organizations you have may deliver products remotely. You look at the restaurants and how they're trying to figure out, curbside pickup and things like that, and really trying to change the model. And there are no rule books anymore for what you do or how you do it. And for someone like me that tends to be a little bit fearless and a little bit reckless, I think the thing that's been exciting is to really look at this as an unfettered opportunity to take a good hard look at the processes you have in your organization and figure out how you're going to change and deliver those products and processes really without fear of failure. Because in one day, at least in the justice world, the rug was pulled out from under us and we ended up at the bottom of a staircase, and all we can do is figure out how to climb back up that stair one at a time. And it's been trying at times, because one of the things that we figured out is that we lacked the infrastructure from a technology perspective to try to bring justice to people where they are. And what I was going to do today is kind of tell you a little bit about sort of the timeline for what we did and how we did it. And I know a lot of you are going to have questions about, am I going to get arrested and all of those things, and I'll do my best to answer those for you. But I thought I would share about the kinds of innovations that, just when I talk about our justice system and how we came together to handle this in a way that continues to protect people's rights, continues to honor people and their family circumstances, and continues to make sure that we are not leaving people without remedies in this time of uncertainty. So here's the story of COVID-19 in the courts so far. And it's from my perspective, and I think most of you who have ever heard me talk, I love the court and the processes we get to provide, because we are the emergency room for the courts, and we're straight up in a real emergency right now. We are in an emergency, and I've told my organization, I go, guess what? This is our time to shine. I walk into the building and I don't see other people, and we're here and working side by side with one another to try to almost be all things to all people in the justice world right now. And I have been in awe of the people I work with. And I'm going to share a little bit about how we've all come together to continue to deliver what society, I think, needs in this time of uncertainty. So what happened was, on March 12th, the governor and the Chief Justice of the Georgia Supreme Court came out and did a press conference and said, hey, we don't want you guys having hearings anymore. That was on just a Thursday. I remember that day so vividly, because on Friday the 13th, I was supposed to go to Athens for a judging in humanities course that I had signed up to take. And that night I was just really uneasy about what was going on, and I felt like this is going to be bad. And I contacted our chief state court judge and our chief superior court judge, and I said, guys, I'm not going to my course tomorrow in Athens. I think we need to meet. We need to talk. And the first thing in the morning, the three of us met. And there's a mechanism in the law where you can declare a judicial emergency. The reason that's significant in my world is we are based on deadlines. If you don't file an answer to a lawsuit within a deadline, you can be in what's called default, meaning you can't contest the allegations in that pleading. In landlord-tenant cases, that's a big deal, because if you don't file an answer within 7 days, the dispossessory writ can be issued against you. There are certain timelines for filing a speedy trial demand in Superior Court. There are timelines for everything. In a judicial emergency, there are certain times, we've only ever done it, I've been the chief judge for 8 years, and I've been a judge for 15. We've only ever done it one time before, and that was with snowpocalypse. So we declared a judicial emergency for an entirely different reason this time, because we were concerned people wouldn't be able to come to us. And if they can't come to us or they're not sure what's going on, let's freeze this moment in time judicially, so we can give people the opportunity to figure out, and us, what we're going to do. So the chief judges of the state Superior Court and I sat in a room. We thought, what are we going to do? And one of the things in the code it says is you have to continue to provide essential functions. Well, you know, in my world, if you come in and you're a landlord and you want to file a dispossessory, it's an essential function. If you're a parent in a divorce and you want to have a custody trial, that's an essential function. So when you think about what people come to us for, in their own minds, everything is essential. But that's not how it is in the code. It defines very minimal things. But one of the things the chief judges we decided to do was define for our circuit what essential functions were. Because in this time of uncertainty, particularly in my world, I think people really crave certainty. So I said, let's tell everybody what we're gonna focus on in this time frame we're gonna set. So we had a meeting, and the interesting thing, I think your organizations probably can reflect back on this, is the three of us sat down and we crafted this judicial emergency order. And we said, we're gonna do it for 2 weeks because we don't know what's around the corner. And freezing everything has an impact on a lot of people, and those decisions are not small. So we all met in a room with the chief recorder's court judge, the probate judge, the DA, the assistant DAs, the solicitor, the assistant solicitor, assistant clerk of court, the chief deputy clerk of court, every stakeholder in the justice system. And we talked it through and said, this is what we're going to do. We have to be unified in our plan. And then somebody looks across the table, and this is when it really hit me, like, we're going to have to do things different. Our court administrator said, hey guys, should we all be in this room together? We were in a 20 by 30 conference room, about 30 of us trying to figure this out. And that moment in time really hit me like, oh my God, we're about to change how we do everything. And we've never gotten together again like that, except on conference calls. But that day we had to decide. And that weekend, what happened is our chief justice issued an overriding judicial emergency order. And he actually went beyond the 2 weeks we had set and set it out for a month. So that weekend in my world, I thought, oh my God, what am I gonna do? I've been shut down except for certain things for 4 weeks. And I have I have to figure out how to handle it. So I sat down, I was like, all right, what are we gonna do? The essential functions we defined are warrants, arrest warrants and search warrants. That's for the safety and security of the community. So how are we gonna continue to deliver that? First appearance hearings. If you're arrested and put into jail, you have rights, you have constitutional rights that we have to continue to protect. You get to be brought before a judge and we have to tell you why you're in jail, and we can talk about bond and we can do those kinds of things. You have domestic violence issues. I mean, those issues go up when people are stuck together. So we have to decide, how are we going to continue to provide access to family violence court? We all defined those as essential functions. And then we have all our state court and superior court. So I don't think I slept that weekend at all, just trying to think, how are we going to continue to do our jobs? So we came in Monday, and I'm sure it's just no different than the rest of you. I made a list, and I was like, I'm going to chip off this list, and I'm going to decide what's most important first. And I thought, what's most important is getting people out of jail. I got to keep getting people out of jail. It's not putting people in, it's getting people out. So I met with our solicitor and our deputy solicitor, And we came up with a new process where bonds are reviewed at the first appearance hearings, and we can bond people on ORs. We run their criminal histories. So we started taking people on misdemeanors and doing their bond review at a lightning fast pace. If you can't bond out in 24 hours on a misdemeanor, you're not going to probably be able to do it. So we were rolling through, getting those going. Got that process going. Then I thought, all right, how are people going to access people on felony bonds? So we had a process we developed with the DA's office to accelerate the bonding review process, because we can't do this in person anymore. And then we have to think, all right, now how are we going to deliver family violence access when people can't come in? They used to come in, sit right next to me and tell me their story. And how do you do that? How do you deal with social distancing, and what mechanisms can we utilize? Well, like all of you, we tried to buy up all the webcams we could to think about processes and telecommuting and people. I think what's hard is figuring out for any organization where your people are going to go. I sent everybody home and I said, you only get to come to work if I tell you you can. My executive director's here, my 2 judges I keep on duty at the jail to provide access to warrants. We meet every week as a court. I don't control what state court or superior court does, but my court has contributed to those courts by, we now sign, if you're on a probation violation, if you're stuck in jail on probation violation and you can't get a hearing to review your probation, a lot of the probation officers have started working out what's called a waiver. So my court, I said, hey, we're at the jail already. Don't go hunt down a state court or superior court judge. We'll sign them all for you. So we've been signing all the state and superior court waivers of probation just to get people out. And what you probably wouldn't know from the news or anything, some things I can share, is that yesterday when I was at the jail, we had 1,700 inmates in the jail. That is a historic low. It hasn't been that low in 10 years. So we've been moving people out of the jail, and we've been doing a really good job working together on it. I know another thing people are really concerned about right now is dispossessory cases. Some decisions I had to make early on about how to handle dispossessories and garnishments. Garnishments are cases where you can collect on a judgment. You can freeze people's bank accounts. You can access part of their paycheck. Well, we had a bunch. I'm going to say 25 to 30,000 of those a year, because I do state courts for them as well. If you file a garnishment action against someone and it's against their bank, it can freeze their bank account. So the first hard decision, the very first decision I made in our emergency order is I said, I'm not going to allow anybody to file any new garnishment cases while this judicial emergency is going on, because I don't think I have a way to have a hearing to open their bank accounts back up or deal with their garnishment issues if I can't have hearings. So I just shut that pipeline down, and I haven't really heard any complaints about it, but I thought in good conscience, if we're going to go into this for any period of time, how can we start freezing people? How can we start doing that? Dispossessory cases, I think people are most concerned about that. And there's not a day or two that goes by where I'm not on the phone with somebody wondering about how those are going to be handled. I will tell you that since March 14th, the judicial emergency date, we've only had 440 new dispossessory cases filed. To give you some perspective, last year we had 25,000 dispossessory cases. So we average about 2,000 a month. So our dispossessory filings are significantly lower. Now, part of that is we can't have garnishment hearings, we can't have dispossessory hearings. So there's no defaults anymore in dispossessories. So we've had to shift our focus about what are we going to do when the courthouse opens back up. That's what a lot of people want to know. We have meetings once a week with all of the judges. I don't know that we know what the new normal is going to look like. The cool thing that's happening right now is we've put a lot of video hearings and things in place, at least in my court, where I'm starting to move past the phase where getting the essential functions done is not the issue anymore. It's looking forward to how we get things going in the future. I will tell you candidly that we're not sure we're going to call jurors in until July, because we've still got a lot of figuring out to do about people in close contact and how we're going to do that. The cool thing is that we're all really working together, state and superior court. It's not my team or your team anymore. It's all our team. And how are we going to support each other to catch back up? I'm not as worried about the criminal trials, quite frankly, as I am about the domestic cases and the family cases. I think we'll be able to catch those up. And a lot of our state and superior court divisions that have civil cases have been running those via teleconference. One thing that I know is going to come out of this is that there are some cool new things that we're going to be doing. Instead of that old model of the guy in the powdered wig where everybody comes to them and brings, you have to come to the judge in the court. I think we're really opening up our thoughts and our ideas to how do we bring access to justice to people where they are. It's tricky with a jury trial. I don't know how you're going to do that, but a lot of our hearings have been teleconferencing. As far as opening back up the courthouse, is there a solid plan? No, I don't think so, because we are restricted to the Chief Justice of the Georgia Supreme Court's order. He's the one that right now has set the time frame, and they extended it through May 13th. So by the time we come back, we'll be 2 months without having normal operations. I think the thought process now is normal operations in the court are not going to look like they did before. We've been very good about working around attorneys who are in our sensitive populations that don't want to have access, that don't want to come in. For the first time yesterday, I'm riding a high today, and you take those highs right now when you can, right? The high I'm riding right now is the fact that for the last 2 weeks, I've worked solid on delivering what's a non-essential function, but it's an essential function in the context of preliminary hearings are the first testimonial hearing that vet probable cause of a warrant through cross-examination, through calling witnesses. We couldn't have those in person because the way we used to do them is we'd have 50 people come into a courtroom. They'd all try to work stuff out, and then we'd have the hearings and the ones that didn't get worked out. Can't do that anymore. So we had to come up with a whole new process to bring people in, to set down hearings. Logistics now of technology and courts, the logistics of creating a calendar. In the old days, we would bring every single lawyer, every single party in at one time, and we would call the cases and they'd work stuff out. Can't do that electronically. So how are you going to set up hearings? I came up with an idea to set them up by attorney. I make our attorneys now request these hearings. And if it's your day, it's your morning. I did 2 attorneys yesterday. I had all of one attorney's cases in the morning and all of another attorney's cases in the afternoon. And we did it all by Zoom, and I used the breakout rooms, and we had attorneys that were able to consult with their clients, and we moved a lot of cases. And the one funny thing is all of a sudden I thought, this one lawyer looks like he has a really fancy office. I was like, his office is super fancy. I was like, it's fancy. And he had his tie on, which I appreciated. Because you see all those articles about people in Zoom, I don't have fancy heels on today, but you see all those people, and he had this really fancy office, and every once in a while the background would move a little like the Matrix. Finally, I said, did you Zoom yourself into a fancy office? And he goes, yeah. So he had a Zoom background of like this super fancy office, which I thought was really clever, because in the new world with virtual, I think we're starting to live in the Matrix, and it's terrifying me as much as it's exciting me.
Hey, Kristina.
Yeah, give me
Margaret some. Wants to know what your tattoo is.
It's a shark. It's a hammerhead shark. It looks like I got it in prison, which I didn't, but it's a hammerhead shark. So
there are a few other questions.
Yeah, let me do questions.
Yeah, let me ask. You've answered a lot of them. I don't know if you've kind of been watching that box, or if you're just going with it, and that's been the luck of it. But you've mentioned a lot of great things that y'all are doing to kind of pivot and to innovate a little bit to make court where we can still have it and you can still take care of the things that are necessary. Is that something that's uniform across different counties, or is that something that you're doing just in Gwinnett?
You know, for me, I have a lot of friends across the state. I was president of the Magistrate Council, and I served on the Judicial Council for Georgia for a while. So, what I loved about that process is I get access to people, and I talk to other counties. But the problem is some counties, you might have a county of 20,000 people. They don't have the volume. My friends in the chief magistrate world in the other counties have different processes, but here's the one thing that's been limiting. Everybody's infrastructure is a little bit different. And where this has really affected us is the fact that the infrastructure we had in place was not sufficient to manage the challenges we had. Like I think some cases in different divisions, in my court, I'm the boss, so I make the decisions, and I cry in my office sometimes, but I've been very decisive, and I've been very swift in the decisions and trying to communicate those decisions. We've posted things on the website. I've gotten things out to the attorneys and in different areas that we've been handling, and I've tested things with attorneys, and I've solicited a lot of input. But in our state and superior court, they're all independent elected officials, so the cohesion varies. They have the plan, and then each division is deciding how to handle their cases differently. So I've gotten a lot of questions from lawyers and people in the public when they've called me and said, Kristina, or Judge Blum, what do we do? And I've tried to point them to the right people, and we're happy to do that in Mag Court because we're here, But a lot of divisions, I'm telling people, if you've got a case pending, email that division, because they might be rotating people out. I've had to do that as well. I've chosen my critical staff. And I think one thing that I've learned through this from just a leadership perspective too, is to value your staff. Like, oh my gosh, I choose to be here and I work better here because I feel like if you're the captain of a ship and the ship's in a storm, I don't want to go, hey, I'll be in my quarters, come get me. I just need to be here. I feel more in control if I'm here. But the people that I'm working with that I've seen develop these leadership mentalities and step up, I ordered them all little bracelets that say essential personnel. And on the inside it says, yeah, we got this. But it's been the ideas that have flown. It's really cool when you have no rules to play by. And somebody says, let's try this or let's try that. And if you can foster that, some of the ideas have been terrible and we've tried them and they've been awful, but who's afraid of failure right now? I'm not, Some of the ideas have been home runs, and the court has decided, protecting your staff is the challenge too. And some things you can telecommute and some you can't. So I know people have been frustrated about not getting in touch with people. You can always call us in Mag Court, you can email me, and I have found you the right person to talk to. But each court has a little bit of a different mission. So mine are primarily in the essential function arena. So I ain't got time for some other things. I'm focused on providing the basics of justice, and we're there. So now we're moving into next phase and how we continue to provide it going forward. And the discussions have been exhilarating, if I'm being honest, because forced innovation is really exciting. And in a world that's so steeped in tradition like the courts, to be able to have a cataclysmic event is the worst thing ever. I hate it. I wish it didn't happen. But if you're looking for any silver linings, and that's what we have to cling to these days, is the fact that it's given us the opportunity to really, really focus on processes that needed to be updated. And it's also through emergency orders and things like that. I know Marlene, Commissioner Fosque, my friend, is on there, but the county declaring the order of judicial emergency has also given us a little bit of an opportunity to acquire some of those things without purchasing guidelines and things like that. But the courts have done, I think that we've done a good job. I know there's going to be frustration, but the frustration is limited by what we're allowed to do. What we want to do and what we're allowed to do are two different things. But the new normal is the planning phase we're in right now. And I know jurors are concerned and things about how you move forward. I got a solicitation from a group of landlord tenant attorneys, And I have a plan. I always have a plan. I change my plan, but I have a plan about how I want to start doing dispossessories again. And I wanted to do them at night to catch up, because I'll have more courtrooms. I can spread people out. I can do staggered calendars, have these great ideas. And then I contacted people with housing resources. I said, the law, you can't say hardship is not a defense in the law. There's a whole lot of new things going on with the CARES Act, about the Coronavirus and Relief Act and federal funding and things we have to know for dispossessories, but we're going to have to dispossess people. So we're looking to partner with those agencies that provide homelessness assistance and just have them at court with us to be available as resources. I mean, we're trying those different ideas, but a lot of our attorneys have banded together and said, hey, Judge Blum, we've got this idea. Do you want to try it? And I'm like, sure, I'll try anything once. And sometimes I'll try it twice because I didn't learn the first time. So, you have to have that attitude of flexibility and fearlessness. And when every day is scary right now, I think it's liberating, right? To be able to know that we're at the bottom, we're moving out of it. And I think that it's really going to be a long haul to get through this. But if we're going to debrief, and I saw Marlene in the hallway. Marlene and I were here, and we were like we passed each other in the hallway. And I said, I would love to do a debrief after this and really talk about what worked for our organizations and what didn't. Because I think at the end of this, we're going to find that this was an amazing leadership exercise. You can find out what you're made of when you're really pushed to the wall. When everything is taken away, everything you've done is no longer possible. How are you going to react? And I have been amazed at how Gwinnett strong we've been. Any other questions?
Yeah, lots. So for as challenging as this has been, a lot of good has come from it. Is there any plan to communicate the positive changes to the general public, or do people just need to call to get answers on their specific cases?
Well, what we've been doing is we've been posting, I've been posting on the website, and I've been sending, I just redid the entire process for doing preliminary hearings, and I published it to our indigent defense bar. And we've got information on the website, and our phones are all changed. I can only speak for my court, and here's the one thing is some things that are tough about when is my case going to be rescheduled. I can't, honest to God, answer that right now, because we don't know when we're legit going to be open for business again. We have to plan our calendars 2 to 3 weeks in advance. And if I'm being completely honest, I've sat down with my staff. I run about 100,000 matters through my court a year. That's a lot. And it takes us a lot of time to get our calendars up and running. The decision I made before the judicial emergency was extended through May 13th, as I said, I'm not going to sit down and start prepping calendars for next week, because I still don't think in good conscience, or in light of the CDC recommendations, we can bring 50 people into a courtroom. So I said, let's hold off and wait. And the judicial emergency order was ultimately extended, but we're looking at staggered calendars and processes for bringing people in, and some things you can't do in a teleconference, but jurors are probably not going to be summoned right out the gate. I know there's some attorneys out there. We have a tentative plan, because I think right now the only plans we can have are tentative. You have to be flexible, because we're all contingent upon what the CDC is recommending and how many people we bring in. But I'm such an optimist by choice. I'm really excited about some of the changes that have been made in a profession that's very steeped in rigid tradition. And I don't think anybody who knows me knows I'm rigid or traditional.
Will any of those changes be permanent?
Yes, of course. What has this all been for? They're not
what changes do you think that you've seen will be permanent moving forward?
Here's a great example of one for me. I can't speak for my brothers and sisters upstairs in State or Superior Court. I hope more of them will use teleconferencing for meetings. It's just more efficient, or certain kinds of hearings you can do, certain emergency kinds of hearings. But I did yesterday preliminary hearings by Zoom all day long, and I chose it. I created a new process for it. I was on the bench for 7.5, 8 hours yesterday, and it felt great, because it was back to doing things that we needed to do. I debriefed with the lawyers. They loved the process. It really you know how you have that moment when your project goes better than you thought it was going to go, and it was just that high, But one of the things in the middle of the day when I was in between calendars, I thought is that I had officers testifying from their patrol cars. I had officers testifying who were off duty from their house. And then I went in and I thought about, as a good steward of county funds, oh my God, all these officers that come to court on their off days, they get paid, or they're on duty and they're out of service for 3 or 4 hours. So I went immediately on my break to the chief deputy, Lou Solis, or Chief Walsh, Billy Walsh. And I said, Billy, I need a favor and I need some money. And he goes, I'm nothing if not a hustler. So I said, I want, when we go back to this, I'm not going to do Zoom preliminary hearings because the process needs in-person certain degree. But I said, let's hardwire these computers so our officers can testify remotely and we can get them back in service faster. And I said, well, this is what we need. We need some HDMI cables. We need to hardwire things. And Billy's like, yeah, I think we can do it. So the officers have been loving it. And I thought in my mind, all I'm doing as a county official, I'm like, ching, 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 all this money. But what, again, this process has done is it's taken a little bit of bureaucracy out of the decision making. And as a county official for 22 years, it's really been exhilarating, and it's got that can-do attitude. So we're not focused on the obstacles, we're focused on the solution. So we're gonna start giving some thought to that. And I think there are going to be a lot of great processes. These bonding processes we're using that are keeping the jail population down. Our solicitor's office has been coming every day, even on the weekends, and we've been running criminal histories on people. I can't do that. My court, we're not allowed as judges to run criminal histories. So they've been running criminal histories, and before the defense attorneys are even appointed, if these people can't bond on misdemeanors because they're either poor or they can't figure it out, they'll OR them, which means a recognizance bond, and we'll move people out of that jail. So we've got some really exciting new processes that are making a big difference. And I know a lot of people want to know, am I going to get arrested? Is that the big question, Brooke? Am I going to get arrested for going to Target? I mean, I know. Okay, here's the deal. Can you? Sure. Maybe. I don't know. I've not been asked a single time to do a warrant because the governor has certain powers that he or she, or he, well, it's he right now. The governor has powers in this emergency order. I haven't read it. I ain't gonna. I got more fish to fry than that. So the governor's got some executive authority he can do to declare something a crime, I guess, on a temporary basis in light of the public emergency. The same for our wonderful chairman, Chairman Nash. She has emergency powers. In my world, because I was a county attorney, the reason those emergency powers are critical is they actually free up county resources to do things faster. I think Marlene would agree with me. They free up resources. So that is the big deal. Now, with the shelter in place, is it mattering? Is it making a difference? Heck yeah, it is. I get a report. It is making a difference. The more you see the peak pushed out, I think by the doctors that have explained it to me, that's actually a good thing because it's not going like this, it's kind of going like this. So I think the messaging is stay at home, we're serious about it. But I've asked my officers, I work out of the jail, I still write warrants, I'm street that way in my court. So I said, what are you guys doing? What are you guys doing? And they said, if we see groups of people, we're going to them and say, hey, you got to respect it because it's all for all of our safety. And I think about my officers every single day out there. They don't, they got to do what they got to do. And our medical professionals and our teachers and everybody that's still trying to hold this together. But they tell them to leave and they can write them a citation to recorder's court. I think under this emergency ordinance, has it happened? But just stay home and don't run your mouth that I said that because I think they can. But I honest to God think they're doing other things rather than out patrolling, looking. I don't think anybody wants that headache right now of arresting somebody, but please just be smart because I think we are making a difference. And I'm in my job, I have to go to work every day. My husband hugs me like I'm going to war every single day, but I need to be here with my people because that's where I feel like I need to be. So the problem is that I respect my job and the people I work with enough that I am only at home or I'm only here. It's killing me, but I need that because I value the people I work with and the people and my officers and all those people that I'm around on a day-to-day basis. So if you guys aren't staying home, then it's making it hard for them in their world to do it. But don't be stupid. I guess that's the rule. That's the only rule these days. Don't be stupid. But I'm not aware of anyone getting arrested or cited so far.
That's good news.
I don't think so.
So you're obviously there with your people, but are all court proceedings now being done virtually?
I think what's different is that, again, my world is a little different right now because we provide, just by definition, most of the essential functions. I mean, we are the emergency room of the court, and we're in an emergency, and it's our time to shine. And my staff, my judges, they're amazing to me every day. Our state and superior court judges, and one of my work BFFs is Pam South, our chief state court judge, and she and I talk every day. She's just amazing. She's leadership Gwinnett grad, and actually, fun fact, she's the one that got me in retreats because she was the co-chair that asked me to be on her committee. I don't know, like 12 years ago, something like that. But Pam and I talk every day, and she's been really thinking through methods of how to deliver like hearings via Zoom. And like a cool thing was yesterday, I told her I created this protocol and I gave it to all the attorneys about how we were going to handle criminal hearings via Zoom and what I expected of people, because you have to be clear, what I expected of how these hearings were going to go and what I needed of people. And Pam, actually, Judge South actually jumped in and she sat through my Zoom hearings so she could watch me do them and learn it. And she has meetings with her staff, but every division is going to be a little bit different. I know like our accountability courts, drug court, mental health court, vet court, they can't take a break either because they do in accountability courts. I don't know if you remember, if they talked about it during your learning day or if they even had them, but they have to keep up with those people every single week. And I'm one of the backup accountability court judges. They have to follow up. Like, are you clean? Are you sober? Are you doing what you're supposed to do? How's your job going? How are you doing? It's really a holistic approach, but they have to see them every week. So they've started doing those by Zoom, and it's been pretty productive. But that's the cool thing is that, I think I'm pretty progressive, and I know I'm pretty, hell, I'll try anything one time, but there's some people, and it's not a knock, it's just some people, the way they do it are more traditional. So it's really forcing people to look at things in a different way. And surprisingly, the people that are most like, this is the way we do it, this is how we're supposed to do it, there's the ones that are surprising me the most by, this is the coolest thing ever. And that's, again, choosing to be an optimist about a horrible situation is a bright, shining thing. So I think some divisions are going to be handling things differently. And I'm hopeful, like in the future, we'll be able to request a video hearing, or you'll be able to do that. I mean, time is money in the legal world. And if you have to drive in from Atlanta and sit on a 4-hour calendar, while you're waiting, that's money in your client's pocket. So I see things differently, and I see it as, all right, well, now if I know that I can call in on a Zoom call and I'm only going to be in court for this period of time, it's really opening people's perspectives, and that is refreshing and a little bit exciting in a not exciting time.
So for as much success as you've had doing Zoom calls, have you found that anybody doesn't have access to teleconferencing, or can lawyers facilitate that? And then also, are courts able to accommodate any needs for interpreters?
In my protocol, that's the thing I talk about with logistics is people say, let's just have a Zoom hearing. And I'm like, whoa, how are we going to get notice of this? How are we going to get access? At the jail, I got to put an inmate in front of a camera. So I had to buy these, finding webcams was like finding toilet paper. And the pandemic, they were like hoarding. I have repurposed. The one I have on my computer right now, I stole from another computer in the building. So we had to get the technology, and then I had to figure out how am I getting an inmate in front of the laptop? And what if I want the defense attorney, is he or she going to be with their client? And there's a lot of logistics that go into kind of planning this. And yes, access to the technology is one thing. I've made an intentional choice not to use Zoom or technology in my family violence. We're using social distancing protocols that I've put in place, and it's really working, because I worry in a TPO, in a temporary protective order case, I don't know who's sitting around these people, and I worry for them. I don't know if you're safe. If you're testifying remotely, I don't know if you're safe. And then the respondent, if you're the respondent in a TPO, we serve you, but we may kick you out of your house. So how am I going to get you notice to get you information about a Zoom hearing? Or how are you as the respondent going to even have access to a computer when I kicked you out of your house? So I made a conscious decision that I wasn't going to utilize that technology because of safety and because of access there. And we're using a different protocol. But the lawyers have kind of fallen in. I'll tell you, but things you have to think about, like, all right, I tell the lawyers, they say, I'm only going to do prelims now if you do two things. You try to work out a consent bond with the DA first, and you meet with your client first. Because they used to all show up and meet with their client at the time of the calendar. So, okay, I'm telling them I'm going to have a telecommute hearing. It's an inconsistent message to also say, but you have to come to the jail to meet with your client, but I don't want you at the jail for the hearing. So we worked with the jail, and I worked with them to get free access to the jail's video conferencing, video visitation system through Securus. So now the attorneys can meet with their client remotely and to do it. Because otherwise it just doesn't make sense to say, you have to come into the jail, which is as one of our most critical functions, keeping that jail safe, right? Keeping that jail COVID free is a big deal. So not bringing you into the jail for the hearings, but I'm making you come to the jail to meet with your client. So those are the kinds of thought processes you have to have about what can work in video. Access to technology, I think my sisters and brothers in the education world are the ones that are struggling with that more, about when you are living in an extended stay hotel and you have digital learning days for 3 kids and no device. So I think for us in the legal world, the lawyers can handle it. We're okay with it, except for, like I said, those choices I've made with family violence, because I'm worried about people's safety and I'm worried about notice. You have to pick and choose.
So since you just mentioned family violence, does that seem to be increasing during this time? Are you seeing a backlog? And then are there any attempts or thoughts about unifying family violence processes across different counties?
They are different in different counties, but a lot of times they're different in different counties because they don't have the resources and the availability we do. We do family violence for our Superior Court, and we run 7 family violence calendars a week. In the family violence world, if I were to file a TPO against my husband and it were granted on an emergency basis, meaning the court just heard my testimony, just on me, and people lie to me all the time, right? But I would throw him out of the house. I would take the kids away from him. He would have nowhere to live. And the law says we have to have that hearing in 30 days. That's a long time. By our strategy in Gwinnett County, by us doing them, we have that hearing in 7 days, 7 to 10 days. We're still running that. Unifying it across the different counties is going to be difficult, because in some judicial circuits, Gwinnett County is its own judicial circuit. In other judicial circuits, they may have Superior Court judges that are on a rotating through, like the Appalachian Circuit is 3 counties. So they may have a Superior Court judge that's only there once or twice, a month, and that might be 30 days you're having that hearing. So we don't want to unify with a circuit like that that's going to push those hearings out 30 days. I do talk about how people, handle the protective orders. And I think one of the things, we've done is work to provide information to people. We have videos, we have victim advocates on scene every day. They've kind of taken it, they're not there anymore. We have to provide them information now to talk to people electronically, but we've really been working with our victim advocates to warm handoff. Jennifer Hibbard taught me that, the warm handoff, to give them to people if they're in crisis. But unifying the process, I think we follow the code, but we're faster. So I don't want to slow down on those.
Right.
But they haven't. Oh, your question was, have they upticked? I don't think so. No. I think they've kind of, because some people aren't coming to us because they're sheltering in place. They're gonna pick up. I mean, just put people in the same house, they're gonna pick up. I think what's happening that's interesting is that some people are coming to us because they can't file a dispossessory action against their roommate or whatever, or their family member, because the dispossessory actions are non-essential right now.
Right.
So they'll try to do it with a temporary protective order to throw somebody out of the house. So the judges have been pretty vigilant about about handling those.
So when the court does reopen, what will the priority on cases be?
Well, every court has different jurisdiction. My priority is this. I can only speak for me. We have been managing our criminal caseload really well, and I feel so good about it. After running that calendar yesterday and getting that process seamlessly up and going, I slept like a baby last night. I felt so good. But we'll get that process going and we'll keep it going. Where I'm going to be okay. My garnishments, I froze them. I put in the judicial order. I don't want any new garnishments filed. I don't want to freeze anybody's bank account. I don't want to have any new, money taken, any new wage garnishment started or anything like that, because I felt like weighing the interests of justice. Somebody collecting a judgment is what they do with a garnishment. I don't feel like I was depriving anybody of any rights in doing that. So we're going to get hit pretty hard with those out the gate, but we're caught up. So my process with my clerks and everybody, I said, here's the plan. We are going to be 100% caught up, ready to go on day one when we open up, because I feel like we're going to be flooded. My priority is going to be dispossessories because the law says I have to make that a priority. We're going to be fine we've been doing TPOs, so we're going to be good. But my priority on dispossessories is going to be critical because we're going to have to figure some stuff out. All of the timeframes have been told. Like a tolling in the legal world means it's frozen in time. So it's like March 14th and then May 14th are together. Nothing happened in between. So we're going to have to unwind all of those. And there's a dialogue going between the landlord-tenant attorneys, and they're going to present some ideas on how they expect the calendars to run in light of social distancing. And I've got some ideas. But I will say this. I mean, you hear about in the news, a lot of our landlord-tenant attorneys, I get the questions about this a lot. First of all, we've only had 440 new ones filed since March 14th. But I expect them to spike for a minute and then dip back down, and I expect a second spike, because what's going to happen is people are going to work out consent judgments with their tenants, and then they're not going to pay on the consent judgment, and then we're going to spike back up again. But a lot of our big landlords are really going to try to work stuff out, because who are they going to replace their tenants with? And a lot of our landlord-tenant attorneys who represent the property owners actually work out a lot of deals and consent deals. So I'm not as doom and gloom about that area. But we have certain time standards we have to operate in. I'm supposed to have a hearing in 14 days when a dispossessory is filed. So the minute that door opens back up, I'm going to have a strategy, and I do, for picking it back up again. But I suspect upstairs, I will tell you, if you're interested, state and superior court, because we meet and we talk, multiple times a week with the chief judges, but we have a big joint bench meeting on Fridays. Their priority is going to be what's called speedy trial demands. There are certain things in the law. If you file a criminal action speedy demand, you have to have a trial in a certain amount of time. The state has to bring it. So they're strategizing upstairs in superior court for how they're going to handle speedy trials. And that's going to be their priority, and domestics for sure.
Great, thank you. So we only have about 5 minutes left. So I'm going to ask you one final question before we close. There's still a lot of questions out there.
Anybody can email me.
That's what I was going to say. And we'll send you these questions as well if you'll answer them, and we'll email them back out to everybody. But for the final question, how are courts handling the budget impacts? And then have employees been impacted, furloughs, layoffs, anything like that?
Well, I'll tell you this. I've worked for Gwinnett County since 1998, and it is the classiest organization ever. And Commissioner Foskey, I know she's on there, but the county has actually passed where if you're essential, now I'm paid by, I'm different because I'm elected, but my essential people who are here every day actually get a little bit of a boost if they're here. There's percentage. There's no furlough plans right now. The county is a AAA bond rated county, and we have, I think we're always in good financial shape. I don't know about the reserves and things like that. I'm just talking from the time that I was a county attorney, but there haven't been any furloughs or things like that. And if anything, the HR department and county administration has been phenomenal. They have put the safety and health of the workers above everything else. of our officers, of our staff that has to be here. There's like a little bit of a percentage increase for emergency personnel and people that have to work or have to come to work. But the county has been great. Now, the budget for the court was set last year, but the interesting thing is we've got to do budget presentations coming out of this COVID crisis. We go right into, because we're a year budget, we come right into budget presentation. So the discussion is going to be like, hey, we're all on the same team here. Are we going to even request anything this year? Are we going to hold the line? But I will tell you that the interesting thing that's going to come out of this, I feel very confident, at least from my perspective, is that any budgetary requests are going to be tied to improving technology infrastructure. So when this happens again, we have the infrastructure we need to flip that switch seamlessly. So again, being the optimist I am, I'm very, very, very excited about the shift in thinking, the shift in innovation, and the willingness to try different things in a occupation, in a traditional career path. What we've provided the same way for hundreds of years. So that is really thrilling to me, and watching those decisions and those things happen have been most exciting.
Thank you. This has been great. Thank you.
I miss you all so much.
Thank you for joining us. It was so great to see you. I don't know if you've seen in the chat box, but everybody.
No, I didn't have the chat box up. I didn't want to be. I'm distracted by shiny things, Brooke. I didn't want to be distracted.
Everybody's been singing your praises.
I didn't look.
Loved it. So
I didn't look.
You'll have to check that out. So thank you so much for all of you who joined us. This call was recorded, so we will send the link out to you if there's anything that you missed. And like I mentioned earlier, we will also send the questions that we didn't get to Kristina, and we'll make sure we can get those back to you so you do have those answers.
And Brooke, they can email me too. I mean, you can email me. My email is, I'm probably one of the easiest people to track down. It's Kristina, KRISTINA.BLUM@GwinnettCounty.com. So if you want to email me, or if you have a question, or God, if you have a friend or a family member that has a question about a court case, one of the things we have taken very seriously in our court right now, is because we're so accessible, is if we don't know the answer and it's not even our court, we'll find you the answer and we'll do our best to do that. So if you have anybody that's struggling or having a challenge because they can't access what they need or have a question, we're happy to either answer it or provide them access to the person that can.
Thank you. That's huge for you to offer that. We all really appreciate that. And next week, we will be shifting gears once again. Please join us on Wednesday, April 22nd. So not Thursday, we're doing it Wednesday from 2 to 3 right here on Zoom for our 5th virtual behind the scenes tour. We're going to actually be talking to the CEO and Chief Nursing Officer of Eastside Medical Center. So they're going to tell us how they've been handling things. This one will probably fill up too. We have to cap these at 100 people. So when you see that email, be sure to go ahead and register. And please remember not to share the link with anybody, just so we can make sure everybody who registers can actually get on and get set. So that is it. I hope all of you have a great day, and thank you for joining us.
Bye. I miss you. I'm counting this as Rotary makeup.
Bye.
Bye, Brookie.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kristina.
Hey, is that you, Lisa?
Yes.
You are. Oh, I miss you.
Oh, I miss you too.